We've been saying we'll get into it, so let's get into it. This may be part 2, our season finale. Welcome back, if that is indeed the split point. Welcome back. I'm still here with Aaron Hammersley. He authored the Guide to Authentic Representation in Storytelling for Bi Plus Narratives. So we got this quote here: "Bisexuality doesn't mean halfway between gay and straight. It is its own identity." Evan Rachel Wood said that. She's bi?
My bi hero.
Oh, I feel like I knew she was bi.
Yeah, she's one of those few celebrities, and this is again part of our industry and like how we live in. She like is never asked about her sexuality because she traditionally has been in straight appearing relationships. But she has always been out and proud about it.
Cool.
But even like like people don't care. Like they won't talk to her about it. They won't interview her about it. It's, but I mean, I think my friend and I always joke that she's always like, "Did you know I'm bi? I'm bi, by the way. Did you know I'm bi?" Like,
I love it. That's the bi thing, is to be like always telling people.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that LGBT inclusive movies earn more revenue at the box office, 29% more, which makes sense.
Oh yeah,
because we're a growing segment of the population,
and we also largely have disposable incomes, and traditionally invest in things that we see ourselves in or we see as productive for ourselves.
Makes sense.
This is a cool slide too, just because it's in the slide and not the actual analytics, but Disney asked for this actually, because what they wanted is they wanted a clear indication of what the industry was missing and the potential of our community to elevate, expand, profitize things.
Well,
as they were made,
Is it like, if we can see the market for this, that's more attractive to people at the
it will definitely
studios.
It's definitely like that's kind of what it is. It's a hey, this is the money you're missing out of,
right.
And it came as like a as an example of like how Marvel did Black Panther, and that was a huge movie, so much money, and it was like this is what white people in the industry have never seen before, which is that like there's a whole segment of society that wants to support good things that represent them.
Yeah.
And they did.
Right. Capitalism is not the best thing in the world, but if we're using it for inclusivity,
correct,
then at least it has some good purpose to it.
Yeah.
And also because, as it says here, 1 in 10 Gen Z identifies bi. I mean, and bi is growing more and more among young people to such a degree. Like whatever's younger than Gen Z is like, more bi.
Right. Do we even get to talk? You and I have these like favorite statistics conversations.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to ask also, because you say 60% of LGBT plus adults identify as bi. I thought it was 57%. This says 62.
These are the closest new statistics that we have. Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Statistic.
It's growing. Well, like we were talking a couple weeks ago, like I think, I didn't look this up, but I think it's the first U.S. census that has sexuality on it.
Oh, yeah.
And allows you to identify as bi on that sexuality. So that's exciting. And I think
we have those results. We have
I guess we will at some point, right? Because the census has to be published publicly.
I think so. Is it not already? It's 2024.
But it'll be interesting because
we should look that up.
I think one of the things that I always say too when I'm pitching to studios or when I'm talking about bi experience needing to be seen is that we don't actually know the real numbers. We just know that they're more than what we have.
Yeah.
But we have no idea how much more, right?
Yeah.
But there's some fluidity to the fact that, like, I don't know, whatever that statistic is you gave me, that's like 80% of all bi men are in like married men are in relationships with women, so it looks like a straight relationship, even though all of those people are bi.
Right.
I mean, how many people in our society who've been persecuted for whatever reason don't want to come out of the closet as bi? Then you have an entire segment of society that's not identifying on paper as this thing, so we can't say that those people are in the community, but like we know that they are
there somewhere.
They're there somewhere. Right. We just have no idea how many there are because they're unwilling and they don't feel safe coming out.
Right. And well, we know that bi people are the least likely to be out. Among bi women, it's in the 20% range, 20 something, and among bi men, it's like 12 to 15%
Yeah, it's
are out.
awful. Yeah.
And that's people who, on some level in their mind, identify as bi but are not out. And as we know from
Yeah.
both of our stories, how many more people are there who may be sexually fluid but aren't even at the awareness stage
Yeah.
yet, or are doing the thing where they've noticed it but it's not important.
Yeah.
It's not part of their identity. They're married, they're happily married, monogamous, and they're not thinking about that
Yeah.
much. But had they grown up at a different time in a different place, maybe that would be part
Yeah.
of their identity, even if they end up in the monogamous relationship. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
so there's a lot more potential there than the numbers will ever show, I think. But among young people, it is becoming more accepted, and therefore you're seeing it more, and so it'll hopefully trickle up. And then this is just interesting. It's like you have this statistic from 2014 to 2022. There were only 55 bi speaking characters out of 38,000 speaking characters in top grossing movies, which amounts to 0.14% of speaking characters. So I'm sure there's a lot of speaking characters whose sexuality is not identified at all.
Correct.
But still, that's very small.
Yeah.
0.14%.
Yeah.
We can do better than that. Let's keep going. What else is in here? We talked about this. We talked about who we are. We talked about all this stuff. Bi, pan, queer. I'm done with the label wars, so I'm done with that. It's all the same. Bi, pan, queer is all valid. It's all great. It's
whatever
all
your particular identity is, it's all under the lovely bi umbrella. We all love each other.
So what do you want to do first? Your recommendations or go through some examples? Let's do the recommendations first. Let's do the broad stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I want to talk about these shows too.
No, we should.
But, okay, so your main recommendation is my favorite one, and it's one we just kind of mentioned. But it's like not just about what ends up on screen. It's about who's in the writer's room and who's consulting at the story level. We need to hire more bi people in writers' rooms.
And we need to create space where they can. Yes, we specifically need to hire Rob. I would like to sell some stuff too, but I think we're at the place right now where we have to equalize the people in the room. So while I think largely that it is possible for somebody who is straight to tell a very good bi story in a TV show or a film, I would rather this moment in time hire more people like us to tell our own authentic stories so that
yeah. And how do you balance that with like focusing on what the show is about? Does that make sense? Where it's like, okay, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the example here, but let's say you have a show that's not about sexuality, but there are people exploring sex and sexuality and like relationships and dating. Like, what do you say to the showrunner who is doing a medical drama and he's deciding who to hire and wants experts on the subject, but also there's maybe bi characters and wants to incorporate authenticity on that too? Like, how do you think about the makeup of a room? That's a tough
Maybe
question.
This doesn't answer your question, but here's how I'd like to answer your question.
Okay.
I believe that having a bi person in the room that can hold more than one thing true at the same time, which, by the way, I think is the most beautiful thing about bi people. I think having a writer in the room will naturally elevate your other characters in multiple ways. And then when you want to have bi characters in the room, they're also going to be able to do that for you, but in a way that because they have been supported and have been allowed to influence the stories of other characters in the show, they're respected when they want to tell a bi story.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, and it touches on something very true for me, and I think for a lot of bi people, is like the experience we've had in our lives of being bi gives us maybe not everyone, it affects different people differently, but for me, and I think many people I've met, it gives you like an ability to hold lots of points of view at the same time, to reconcile conflicting ideas in a really complex, interesting way. And you end up writing less stuff that's like arch enemy versus pure
Yeah.
good hero. You write the more complicated, real shit. And so, like, I think if that's the tone of a show you're going for, a bi point of view helps you regardless of sexuality.
Yeah.
It helps you think about those kind of concepts.
No, I think that we're great as people who have felt marginalized in writing complexities into characters, right? Like, I believe that we should have bi villains, and I say that knowing that I wrote about how terrible it is that we're represented that way, but also bi heroes, and we've had so few bi heroes that like everything I feel like has to be in balance. And again, like us, to your point, being able to hold that complexity is elevating everybody.
Yeah. And then we have bi heroes like Oberyn Martell, and he gets his eyes squished out in a horrible death.
We'll get to that. It's in the guide too. I really feel there were very few places we were unwilling to go with this guide. In fact, I think at one point Christine and I had to have a conversation where we had to be like, we have to really speak in the both and, because for me, some of the section that's on misrepresentations was coming from a place of we deserve better as a community. And so I was willing to be the bad guy and call people out. And after Christine and I had a conversation, we did soften some of the things, because I want people to know that anytime they see themselves in a character, whether we think it's bad representation or not, it is valid.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And there are great shows and films that I reference in the case studies that I actually love. In fact, quite a lot of them are shows and movies that I love.
Yeah.
And also I hate the bi representation in them. So again, as a bi person, I'm holding more than one thing true at the same time.
Yes.
But straight people have a harder time with that.
Yes.
So we kind of had to warm them up in some ways in the way that we wrote it.
Well, speaking of, this is a great example of that, Fleabag, which I think is like an incredible show.
It's an incredible show.
Fleabag.
And I still would love to have been a fly on the wall when they pitch that show. Like, it's a show that's kind of about nothing and also just a person. Like, and the show is such a lovely little 2-season stint. It's great.
Well, it's a show that shows that like authenticity and originality and like just really being yourself is interesting, is fascinating. I mean, the character alone is interesting. And so I love that show. And your recommendation overall, and this is an example of it, is if the audience doesn't know if a character is bi, then we're not really changing the narrative for bi people. And so your recommendation is just say bi. Say the word. And so as amazing as Fleabag was and bisexual as it may have been, they didn't use that word. And so what's the...
To be clear, there are countless. Countless.
It's not just the one that's right here. There are so many like that.
It goes back to what I said about stereotyping too, right? Like, it was easier for people outside of the community to understand what a gay person looked like, because in the beginning, they did a lot of coming out stories where they very, very clearly said that they were gay. They made a thing about it. They were sensitive to that character's experience coming out as bi, right?
Yeah.
Even Will and Grace like reinforces that the characters are gay in basically every single episode. Like, they are dating somebody new and it's always a guy. Like, there's that.
The woman comes up.
Exactly. Yeah. And that show also dealt with their work life and all these other things, but it was something that was ingrained in the characters from the beginning. It was something, I wanted to use the word obvious to anyone who was watching the show. And we as bi people have been robbed of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob.
It's okay.
Basically the entire history of film and television, as far as I can tell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, only very recently have I seen shows that I feel like that character is explicitly and consistently bi.
Yeah.
And it's part of it.
Yeah.
But only I can count them on my hand, I feel like.
Yeah. I think that's probably true. And even in that circumstance, it depends on how much you think it has staying power for a non-bi person as the show moves on, or as like they're not saying the word as constantly.
Right. Well, it also makes me think of like why people write stuff and don't use the word bi. And whether it's in them or whether it's what they think viewers will imagine. It's like, I think a lot more people have had these kind of experiences with fluidity.
Mm-hmm.
There are more of those people than there are people who use the word bi for themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you are in that group, or if you know a lot of people in that group who maybe get fluidity but aren't ready for the word bi for themselves, then it kind of makes sense that you would gravitate toward that, of just like showing fluid people without having them name it. And that then reinforces the exact invisibility that it's based on. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And this doesn't, by the way, have anything, in my opinion, to do with the label wars, because to me, it's not about the label. You could still identify somebody as having a bi experience and wanting to have bi experiences without having to have them self-label. But you're still using the word bi because we're trying to do what, in my opinion, still hasn't been done, which is destigmatize the word.
That's exactly what came
We're
to
not
my mind.
there. We're not there.
Yeah.
We should be there, but we're not.
Right.
You know?
Right. And that, whether, exactly, it's, if there's some aversion for the character to not use that label, fine. Do things from a character point of view. That's good writing, is like, what would this real character do in this situation, in this time and place? So that makes sense. But as a writer, you do want to think about, like, what are you contributing to invisibility, or are we destigmatizing? And there are ways to destigmatize even while portraying a character who is afraid of stigma.
Yeah.
You can do both.
Yeah, you can hold space for both.
Yeah.
I always use the example, we have been able to do these things for other identities of humans.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But we have chosen actively as a society to not do that for bi people.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, that's wrong.
Why do you think that choice is made differently? Is it like less, does it just seem like it's less important to people? Or
I think it comes down to the narratives, right? I mean, as a society, we're still very attached to binaries. You know, a lot of religious, takeover in the last 250 years historically has shifted all of humanity away from more fluid experiences of relationships into like this very stoic, straight or not straight. And I think when the gay community was fighting for its rights, which, side note, was started by bi people, they contributed to the conversation by what they considered to be not muddying the waters, which is going straight or gay, right? And not holding space for bi or trans people or people who are gender fluid,
Right. Yeah. For reasons that are understandable, but hurt us. The next sort of recommendation you have: expand opportunities and empower new voices. And I think relatedly, intersectionality not only matters, but it is crucial to bi storytelling. So why explain that? Why is this important?
Yeah. So I have said before, but no two bi people are alike in every way.
Yeah.
And I think we're past the point where we have to tell like gay, affluent, or sorry, not gay, but like, I don't think we need like a character who's like white and from a middle class home that is, bi. Like, you can do that. But what I'm saying is, I think as a society, we have learned that like there's space for people who look different, who are different ethnicities, who have different backgrounds, and it doesn't mean that you can't do both. And we should do both. Yeah. Because capturing a more full experience from the get-go, as opposed to sort of whitewashing the bi experience in order to get where like gay has gotten in our society, I feel is unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think that we know better now as an industry. And so I feel that intersectionality should be inherent to us moving forward.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's move on to this next.
Do you want to do the case studies before we do the test?
Yeah, let's do the case studies and talk about some shows, because we can go through the test sort of at the end as sort of your final recommendations for people. And I love talking about shows that and movies that I've seen. I haven't seen all of these, so we'll
Great.
obviously.
I made myself watch all of them. So
I
I
don't
made
know
myself
how you did
rewatch a
that.
lot of them.
Did you watch Buffy growing up?
Yes.
Because I've never seen Buffy. I know
Not
that has
in its entirely, but
yeah.
And because it's never experienced as bi in the show too, I didn't get the opportunity to have that meaningful connection with it.
Right.
But
right.
there was something about that person's experience in the show that just felt that. And now, of course, we know that was the plan. And then the studio pushed back on using the word bi because they were afraid of whatever that would mean. Yeah.
That's the just say bi, but that was in the late 90s and it was a different time. So I've heard that one before. Bohemian Rhapsody is here. I definitely remember that. And
you remember that scene?
Which scene?
The scene where he sits down with the girl who he later calls the love of his life, which I think Freddie Mercury said that in multiple interviews about the fact that he was always in love with her.
And she calls him gay or something? Is that
he literally in the scene says, "I'm bi." She says, "No, Freddie, you're gay." Which I will make the statement. I actually think I said this, but I argue that I believe that was probably what actually happened in that conversation with them.
Right.
But I do not think that Freddie Mercury was gay.
Right.
He was bi. In his autobiography, he spoke about being bi.
Right.
But that's an example of that's how they left it. That is how Bryan Singer left that experience of that character in the movie.
Right.
And then the entire rest of the film, you only see him in gay relationships.
Right. Which brings up an interesting question of that we mentioned earlier is how do you show the struggles of a bi person dealing with biphobia without making the product itself biphobic? So in this case, I feel like because that was the end of it and there's no other counterpoint to it, then it is kind of biphobic. It feels like the movie is agreeing with her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that scene may have happened in real life, and that may have been something Freddie really dealt with, which is the female love of his life calling him gay. It's interesting to know that maybe happened, and
again,
that's hard.
It's hard.
What do you think is the better version of that movie? What would you have liked to see?
To step back, I don't know what the better version of the movie is because the movie came out. I actually really enjoy that movie for the record.
Yeah, I like that movie too.
I think he's
for the most part. Yeah.
And Rami is so good at it. I think that when it all comes down to public facing, which is what I think I always came back to, which is because society doesn't have the narratives to understand that that's a biphobic experience for that character. They're not taking away that experience. They're taking away what they know, which is in countless other examples in film and television, we have said that character is gay.
Yeah.
And in fact, the gay community has claimed for many, many years that Freddie Mercury is for them. Yeah. Which again is a bicon, not a gay con. But that's how it's portrayed in society.
Bicycle. He wrote a fucking song about it.
I know.
Among many other little things in other songs about loving different gender. Yeah. Yeah. Very clearly bi.
Yeah. So I think that you have to be the outside voice in the room. And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with, which is you can have that scene, but you have to have somebody else, or you have to have him reconfirm for himself, or have another character, which I think is more beautiful in a way, reconfirm that he's bi in another scene. You have to have the balance, right? Or the both and. You have to have both.
You have to at least show it, even if you don't make a determination. You should let the audience have the both points of view at least.
Correct. We could talk about Heartstopper to some degree, but
we should. I love Heartstopper.
Yeah.
That makes sense, and also it's a little bit like when I watched that movie, I saw him as bi. I saw that scene as him dealing with biphobia. Yeah. But then,
which a lot of bi people in our community very likely did, and also know that Freddie Mercury is bi.
Right.
But now step outside of it.
Right. If you don't know those things and you aren't primed to notice biphobia, you could easily watch that movie as he's a gay man lying to this woman, And I think what hurt me the most about when that movie came out was the response to it and people calling it him gay and it's a gay movie.
Yeah,
I'm like, did we watch the
because
same movie? Because I
yeah,
watched it and he seems bi, but they
but
didn't say
that's
it.
society's bi erasure of
Yeah.
our entire community,
Right,
right?
right,
It
right,
exists in all forms
right.
of our existence as human beings.
Right. And as much as you want to represent stuff authentically in a
Hmm.
movie, you also do have to remember that so many people don't know this stuff and won't see the biphobia, and you should be creative enough to figure out ways to like show that
Yeah,
and to explain it to people
yeah,
in a dramatic way, not just like an
sure,
explainer,
yeah.
but dramatize it. Yeah. Okay. I never saw Queer as Folk, unfortunately.
It is
Uh,
it was a very meaningful TV show at the time,
Yeah, I'm sure.
especially for the gay community.
Is there much bi-ness in it? Not really.
Well, there's a huge storyline. There's a lesbian couple famously that are married. Well, not
Uh-huh.
married because it wasn't legal at the time, but they were essentially married and they have two kids. And one of them has an affair with a man.
Uh-huh.
And the literal like writing of the dialogue, like if you write the scene, is basically like a lesbian like saying that her partner can't be bi and she's also not a lesbian if she's sleeping with a man. So it's like it's so internalized and very much like of the perspective of like you have to be one or the other, and once
Interesting.
you've crossed the line you can't, like you've left whatever behind.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
again, despite the fact that there are gay people all over the world that have had experiences in, you know, with in like straight experiences and then have understand
Yeah.
that their identity is not that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's happening more and more often. I've seen in personal life of like people identify as gay or lesbian, noticing
Yeah.
some fluidity, but that was right. Like because of this kind of representation for years,
Hmm.
it doesn't seem like a possibility.
Yeah.
Love Simon is another one where like character seems bi, but they don't say it. They call him gay.
Love Simon, written by a bi person who was forced out of the closet by social media trolls
Mm,
because they decided a straight woman was not allowed to write a book about a gay boy's experience in high school. And
interesting.
then it was fine when she came out as bi, but then other people didn't like her because she wasn't gay. I mean, it just, the
Wow.
compounding
Wow.
ignorance of society is incredible.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk
The
about
movie
that.
is beautiful. I absolutely love it. It's
Yeah.
also a great example of like a full, like, studio backed, like 20th century spent a like amount of money they would spend on any rom-com to make that a studio movie.
Yeah.
Like Greg Berlanti directed it. Like it's incredible.
Yeah. I like that movie. I didn't see the show, but I heard there was bi erasure in the show also. Love Victor or whatever.
The show, I do like Love Victor. There's a little bit
Yeah.
in it, yeah,
But
but it's a great show.
but the character's
The
bi.
character is gay.
The character's gay.
The
Oh,
character's gay in Love
okay.
Victor. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. Uh, Brokeback Mountain and Call Me by Your Name, both movies that feature what you and I think see as bi
Yeah.
characters, but many people see as gay films.
Yeah. So this is a part, it's almost kind of a segment of bi erasure, but I call it the gay film in quotation marks. But it literally, it's not even a marketing thing. It's how periodicals talk about the films. Like we associate them as being gay romances or whatever. And then you take a step back, or as a bi person, you just watch the movie. And especially Call Me by Your Name. I mean, Brokeback Mountain has the exact same experience where he has multiple relationships with women. Like, you know, so does both the leads do. But Call Me by Your Name is so bi because literally Elio is having an experience with a woman and a man at the
In the
same
middle of the
time.
movie, yeah.
But that it's still in 2024 referred to as like a gay romance
Yeah.
is just really, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just where we're at still.
That one was right around the time I was coming out, and it was a big one for me. And I immediately saw it as a bi
Yeah.
story in a way that I did connect with.
Yeah.
Where I haven't connected with gay stories.
Yeah.
And there's one shot in the middle of the movie where the camera crosses the line, and it goes like they're walking around a little fountain or something, and it crosses behind Army Hammer, I think, and you see Elio, you see Timothy Chalamet on the other side of Armie Hammer. Well, it's like something that most people wouldn't notice crossing the line.
But you were like,
but
Luca,
I'm like, what?
I know what you were
doing. He crossed the line. That's so weird. And I'm having this visceral reaction to it. Like, because crossing the line is basically like, it's weird. You know, here's the cameras here. They're on both cameras are on this side of us. If suddenly you saw a shot from this side,
very specific
it's
choice.
Jarring. It feels weird. It's like the orientation of the room has changed. Which is exactly how my life felt when I came out. When I accepted it for myself, it was like the world still looks basically the same, but it feels almost opposite. It almost feels like everything's different now in this way you can't fully put your finger on. And it was like, oh, that was a very intentional choice at that moment in the movie, which is when he's like realizing it in that moment. I love that shot.
I just want to say, and I've never said this, but now I'm saying it on your podcast. I did the red carpet premiere for Call Me By Your Name, and it was a very visceral experience.
Yeah, because you weren't like fully out on
I was not
Facebook
aware, yet. And I didn't. I like obviously had a relationship with my bisexuality, but I didn't have like an outward relationship with it, and I didn't truly know what the movie was about. So as I'm like standing in the back of the theater, managing, thinking about talent management, like when the film was over, I was like also having these like deep experiences. And it was, anyway.
Wow, what a personal journey for you working on that movie. Wow.